Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here at the Dubai Air Show. Our coverage here is sponsored by FLIR Systems, and we're talking to Fahad Mohammed Al Mheiri, who is the Business Development Director here at the Emirates Defense Industries Company. Thanks very much for joining us.
No problem. Thank you. It's a pleasure having you here.
So you guys are one of the stars of the show, obviously. One of the key elements of the Emirates plan to build locally, develop defense and aerospace industrial capabilities. This has been a 15-year-long project that the government's been focused on. You guys are a relatively new arrival, right? You're 3 years old, but 2 years of which is really on the ground and working. And you've been in the company now for almost 2 years.
Right.
Talk to us a little bit about what's been accomplished in these last 2 years. What do you chalk up as sort of the major successes, and what's next on the plate as you work to continue to grow this enterprise, which is, a national priority fundamentally?
Well, as you just started up with, it has been December, I believe 2014 is where the law really was passed that a company, EDIC, would be formed to be an umbrella for about 16 different industries which are today under EDIC. We cover everything from naval to land as well as the air. So it's a full synergized and in harmony as well, working together with all the different assets. We're about 10,000 people strong today. And you can imagine all these companies were standalone at one point. And we are still in the phase of really merging everything in together and pulling all the companies in. We have set up a shared service capability within the company. Our mandate is very clear. It's at the end of the day, it's really reducing our costs and improving really the value to our end user, which is the GHQ Armed Forces. When it comes to that, it's all about cost. It's all really about taking a look at efficiency and seeing how we can do things better. Operationally, things don't really change much to them. We have very clear services that we provide, and we also have 4 different companies that are currently providing products to the U.A.E. Armed Forces. So for us, our phase today is still in really integrating all the companies in. With the 16 companies we've already started merging quite a few companies together. So I believe we are standing about 13 companies today overall from the 16 initially started off with. Our focus is we're not really taking all the companies into a holding company, so it's not EDIC, the mother company with all the companies underneath it, but we're actually fully integrating in with them. So this really allows us to have shared capabilities throughout the assets. It allows myself as the Executive Director for Business Development to understand the capabilities within each of the assets and see how we can merge some of these together to improve value and bring something new to the customer.
One of the key individuals who joined the company was Luc Vigneron, who's the Chief Executive of the company. Enormous experience in French industry, whether he was at GIOT, which was the predecessor of Nexter, as well as when he was at Thales. As you guys are working your strategic planning, where do you see this company being in 5 years, 10 years as you lay the groundwork? Because I know Luc is somebody who's always been a long-range thinker. Talk to us about what that long-range plan looks like for you guys.
Well, I believe once we have all the companies integrated and we have a full and clear understanding of everything that we have in-house, it's really about making sure that we're satisfying the customer's need with the capabilities. The U.A.E. is always striving for the best, always wanting to have something better, always need to be on the edge really of technology, and this is something within the EDIC we're really focusing on. One of the main things we are looking at today very seriously is to actually have proper labs in place in the country. This is really all there to support us into driving technology forward. Previously, as more operators and having licenses to be able to manufacture things, it puts limitations on us. We get very clear directions or instructions, let's say, from our supply chain or where things are supposed to be coming from or where we source things from. Our focus today is really to get away from that, to go more into the real specifications of what is needed. And then having our own capability to source these from different areas, whether it's internationally or even train local companies to be able to support us in that industry. For instance, the machining capabilities are massive locally and internationally, and it's something that we can really support them with there. We have huge machining requirements. One of the companies we have here is the EDIC Precision Industries. This today was an offset project together with international companies, and we have great capabilities where we're supplying parts to Airbus, to Boeing, and other large international OEMs who are using us as suppliers. So the quality is there today, the capabilities are there, and it's really making use of that for the future to allow us to really have our own design authority, our design capabilities, to be able to do things in-house, really more than relying on external parties to support us.
Talk to me a little bit, though, about how you're making some of the make-buy determinations, right? So whenever you're looking at national industries, nations have tendencies of safeguarding, whether it's bullet production or gun production or a whole bunch of things, that it's like, well, we have to have that from a domestic standpoint. But sometimes it defies logic because there may be better alternatives and other products that are on the market that you could actually buy. And that gives a challenge to suppliers like you. How are you working with the government to figure out, look guys, this is the stuff we have to be focused on, which is the value add stuff, and not have a whole bunch of legacy things that you've done because you've always done them around that may not be adding value to the equation?
I mean, this is definitely something that we are really looking at within EDIC. You're right. I mean, there are a lot of capabilities that were always there as thought to have a requirement, to have the capability in-house. But we've seen some of these companies get that and then fail or not be able to follow through on those. So we are really careful now when we move forward with these. For us, it's very key that things are very sustainable. If I'm going to be getting a transfer of technology or know-how from an OEM or another supplier to be able to produce something locally, I need to ensure that I can do that better or cheaper or with a shorter lead time for my customer at the end of the day. We're not an end user of most of these products. It is the armed forces that use them. So for them, there's no difference. If today they come to me to supply a certain product, they're going to turn around and ask the world as well, how much would it cost for this product? And we are now today such a global economy where we cannot just stand alone here and say, oh, but this is made in the U.A.E., you have to buy it from me. It doesn't roll anymore. We need to be competitive on a global scale. And this is something we're really pushing for today. It's something really important. It's come at a really good time, with everything that's been going on now. The needs are there, the requirements are there, the demand is there, so it's become very critical. And with what we're doing, with all the restructuring, with the changing of everything that's happening here, it really supports us where the customer is asking for it at the best price he can find globally. So for us to do all the restructuring that we're doing and the drive that we're doing to make all these changes with all the shared services, it falls in line, so it makes sense.
When you said what doesn't roll, which was belying your Boston University education there a little bit. Fortunately, you're not a Red Sox fan, but I digress. How a lot of this work came to the country in part. You said offset requirements, for example, but that also is a model that's not that successful anymore. Talk to us about the kind of partnerships you guys are trying to strike. Again, one of the things you're trying to become cost competitive. 5 years from now as a net exporter, how do you see that role of not just licensed produced, which OEMs sometimes don't like that you're competing against them, but similarly where you're going to start to develop and move up the curve on your own systems, because there's an enormous amount of innovation here that we've seen, whether on unmanned systems or a whole variety of technologies that have been homegrown Emirates technologies. Talk to us a little bit about where you see yourself on the global markets in a few years' time.
Well, you mentioned a point regarding the offsets. I wouldn't say that it's not working. I think what's happened is we've gotten a lot pickier. Previously, it was very easy for OEMs to come and shove projects or ideas at us and say, oh, this is what you need, this is what your country should have, and this would be something fantastic. Today, there are a different set of eyes on these projects today, and we're very clear now in terms of taking a look and making sure things are sustainable, that things are really for a long-term vision. I mean, for instance, within EDIC, we're no longer accepting JVs. And this is something that's really changed for a lot of people. Their expectations usually were, okay, if we want to work in offset projects, we need to come in here, we need to set up a JV, we need to have a local partner, and then we've got a time frame where we need to deliver something. With us coming in so late in the game, we understand and we've learned our lessons, and we've seen what the situation is when you have a company that was set up to deliver a certain project, because the question always is, what then? This is where for us it's difficult. You have a partner who's latched onto you, and the expectation is, well, what are you bringing to the table today? With EDIC being the size that it is today, we feel we should have our own capabilities in the hand. So Now the way we work with offsets is very arm's length relationship. We're very clear in terms of what we expect out of them. We're very clear in terms of what they will receive as offset credits based on the efforts that they put in. And we align these together with Tawasan Economic Council. So they're our third eye really into the project. So we also, as a local company, need to stand there and prove that this is something required for the country and something that the local armed forces need, and something that we would be able to support them with in the future. So it's changed slightly from the way it used to be run. And it's become sort of more dynamic on that sense. There are still a lot of projects ongoing today, and I think we've got some really successful projects going on. So hopefully within a year or two you'll start to see the outcome of these and really start coming through.
And what are those projects, and what are some of the things you guys are highlighting here? I mean, every one of these air shows is a great opportunity for folks to put their foot forward, especially at a company which is the product of sort of a visionary national strategy for expansion and growth in what are considered sort of strategic markets. What are the things that you guys are highlighting and showcasing here this week?
Well, this week we have 4 of our entities here. So Amrock, we have GAL, we have Tawasan Dynamics, which is now Barrage Dynamics, as well as EDIC Precision Industries. So these are the assets that are really servicing the aerospace industry today, and on the military side more, as well as as on the commercial aspect here. So the reason for us making sure we're here, I mean, Amrock have a new facility that's going to be set up. It's been in the works for quite a few years now, but we're hoping by the end of this year the facilities get handed over. The requirement will there be then to get the OEMs to really support us in bringing that place to life. A lot of new capabilities are expected to come out of that facility to service and support a lot of the fleet that are in use today by the Air Force. We as well, sort of both on GAL and under Amrock, there's huge demands with the operations that are going on today, and we need to make sure we're not disturbing any of the operations that are ongoing. So there is huge support coming from there, and we're expanding out and reaching out to the OEMs to really see what they can do on an offset basis to support the expansion of those two. With Barrage Dynamics, it's also very different. We have the Al Tariq that has been a success out in the operational field, and we have a new product that is coming out, still known as sort of the P3. This is something that we're moving forward with, and hopefully we'll start delivering these to our end user after Q1 next year. So hopefully.
And what is the P3?
The P3 is basically a precision-guided kit that is used with the Mk81 and Mk82 general-purpose bombs. It varies slightly from the Al Tariq in that it doesn't have any wings, but serves a lot of the similar functions, really. So it is something that was requested, I would say, from us to look into, and it has been a success. So we'll see, hopefully, with the years to come, see how that moves forward. And I think you'll hear more on that with future shows, inshallah.
Sir, thanks very much. We really appreciate it, and best of luck on what is an amazing project.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
One more question, actually, which I was saying goodbye, and it popped into my head. You're good? Are you locking up?
Ready.
Poor man. Let me. Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid has been passionate about driving sciences, particularly in the country. There's the Coders Initiative. There's all sorts. There's the Mars landing goals. I mean, truly extraordinary sets of sort of both regional but also global goals that he's trying to help set. Talk to us about how you're engaged in the national science and engineering enterprise that the Emirates has been working on, whether it's sponsoring students overseas, building educational institutions here. Talk to us about how you fit into that incredibly rigorous and ambitious intellectual ecosystem that the country has been built and continues to build.
Well, first of all, I think the drive that we have from the leadership is phenomenal over here, and I think this is something that has really allowed us to get to where we are today. I think as EDIC, internally still, we have a lot to do in terms of restructuring and sorting things out and really understanding true capabilities within all the assets. I think once that is really solidified and cleaned up, we have a lot of OEMs ready to support us as well through the offset programs to see where they can take us hopefully to the next level and drive things forward. I mean, we have real requirements today in hand. These are things that we're focusing on, but also the expectation is to have more interesting capabilities in the future. So there is always a vision really out there, and this vision really depends on us to really decide to pick on and start to really dissect and see how we can make sure we're also part of that. One of the main things that we're looking at internally is labs. Now, one of the labs we've really started to focus on is the ammunition lab. We have, of course, needs for several other labs, but for us, a lot of the other labs can be more very generic, let's say. But for the ammunitions lab, that'll be very specific to our industry, very specific to our domain. So this is something that we have already signed up with an external party on, and this is something we're working on. It's going to be a 5-year program to develop capability in the country, to really look at capabilities. So we're talking about simulations, we're talking about proper, testing, calibration capabilities, and really matching to our needs here in the country. In line with the U.A.E. Armed Forces requirements. So this is a niche that we are going to be going into and we are going to be focusing on, but we just need still a little more time. When you have 16 companies that you need to try and line up, we talked to a lot of OEMs who have gone through something similar with 1 or 2 companies, and they tell us, oh, it took us 5 years, or we're still integrating, and so for us it's been 2 years and it's been really tough. It's not easy. A lot of empires were grown, and so we're kind of having to dismantle these now and put everything together and refocus everybody back on their core. And that'll allow us to really have a strong foundation infrastructure to grow on.
And do you have access to all the right investment capital you need to be able to push that through?
I definitely would say yes. I mean, for us today, our requirements are being met internally within EDIC. So we are very cautious in terms of what we do and where we move forward. And so, of course, with sustainability being so key, we are able to sustain ourselves right now internally in terms of the projects that we have moving forward. But we are getting a lot of support from TOAS and Economic Council with the offset. I appreciate that. I mean, at the end of the day, they understand what's good for the country is something that's going to be good for us. And so, they're putting their trust and faith in us to really deliver those as the defense industry in the country.
So it's safe to say that you're going to digest all this stuff before you start doing any mergers and acquisitions.
That is exactly correct. There's a lot to digest, There's a lot happening, so we're just a company like Amrock itself. Usually you look at any sort of military repair overhaul capabilities in any country, they'll focus on 1 or 2, niche aircraft. For us, things are a little different. We have several that we're focusing on because the need is there. And this puts us in a little bit of a different situation where it's not so easy to digest very quickly. So, while we get the teams together and while we understand capabilities more and more as time goes on, we'll get more involved in that and we'll have the capability to do what we need to do.
Sir, thanks very much and very best of luck.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.